This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update for September 7th, 7 p.m. We have a very active Atlantic basin right now. We have 3 systems on the map. Here we are on the front page of Hurricane City. Let's start talking about Katia here, southwest of Bermuda. The system is going to straddle 70 north for a little while and then begin to turn off to the northeast. Should pass south of the Canadian Maritimes and out into the open Atlantic. We'll watch it. It looks like the system is weakening anyway, so even if it were to affect the Canadian Maritimes, it would be as an extra tropical system in a weakening fashion. Now, the main concern here in the basin over the next few days is going to be these 2 tropical systems, Nate and Maria. Let's start with Maria. East of the Leeward Islands, the system is cruising quickly off to the west, and there's the thinking is that the northeastern Caribbean Sea is going to get affected by this system. In fact, our current feature is St. Martin over here, where you can get all the latest information, localized information as this moves in. The forecast has it as a tropical storm over the weekend. The problem is, the weaker the system remains, it may be a little bit further south. The models are a little bit spread when it goes through the Antilles, so we may have to switch islands as this gets closer to the weekend. We'll have a better idea where it's going to head. And the other story out here is newly formed Tropical Storm Nate in the Bay of Campeche. Most of the models take this north for a little while and then bend it back to the west towards Mexico. One model, the Canadian, does want to take this up like this. The Euro was showing that for a while, but now the Euro has gotten on board with it, taking it in Mexico, and that's unfortunate because Texas really needs the rain over here. They've been bone dry, fires all over the place. Just unfortunate that they're not getting any tropical systems this year to help alleviate the situation. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at all these systems, or at least the 2 main systems here, Nate and Maria. And here's Nate using the HurTrack program. You can see the system goes north for a little while and then bends back to the west, taking this in just north of Tampico, Mexico as a Category 1 hurricane. And of course it doesn't complete the complete forecast. This is 5 days right off the coast of Tampico, Mexico. Expanded wind field. We got to hope a little bit of rain gets up into Texas, but South Texas, the very southern tip, and the coastal area is not in a bad of a drought as the inland areas are in Texas. It looks like this is not going to get up that way. And I'll get to the reasoning on that in just a minute. Let's go ahead and take a look at Maria using the HurTrack program, and let's go ahead and get the map up on Maria and show you what's going to happen here over the next several days. Let's go ahead and put the forecast up. And here we go. It moves into near Antigua and St. Martin, our current feature, and then starts to hook off to the north, just east of the Bahamas. And we'll see what happens after that. Most of the models do not take this into the United States. In fact, there's very few that do. The Euro takes it pretty close to the Outer Banks, and we'll get to that model in just a minute. But both of these systems are going to affect land, but it does not look like either of these systems is going to hit the United States. All right, let's take a look at the models on Maria. And here we go. The consensus on the global models here is pretty much hitting the northeastern Caribbean Sea, just east of Puerto Rico, and then paralleling the Bahamas, beginning to turn off to the north. And they all keep it minimal, tropical storm intensity. That's the official forecast anyway. But the GFDL does have it up to Category 1 here, but pretty much models are keeping this weak and turning it off to the northwest in response to a weakening ridge out in the Atlantic. Now here is the model, the European model, going out to Thursday the 15th. And you can see Maria here right near Eleuthera Island in the Bahamas, just east of Great Abaco Island. And then let's go out a little bit further in the future. And you see there it is, right off the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And heading north. And at this point it would be making that turn to the northeast because there's definitely a kick up in here, and the jet stream is like this, so the system would beginning to make the turn off to the northeast. But the Euro does have it pretty close to the United States. All the other models are pretty much showing it way out in here somewhere, so it'll be interesting to see if they shift back to the west or if the models stay pretty much showing this turning away from the Bahamas and the United States. Now, here's the best performing model so far on Tropical Storm Maria, and that's the BAM Shallow. And the reason the BAM Shallow is performing so well, by the way, it's only off by about 43.8 miles. That's using 48 hours worth of data. And the reason it's the best performer is because it's the BAM Shallow Beta and Advection model, shallow, meaning systems that are weaker is when this model performs its best. We have a weaker tropical storm. It indicates it's going to remain a weak tropical storm and takes it into Dominica over here in the Antilles and then towards Hispaniola and East Cuba. So this is why it's not a done deal that this is going to hook off into the north and go out into the Atlantic, because the beta and advection model, the shallow model, is indicating this is going to be a greater Antilles hit here as a weaker system. And that is a possibility because the system remains weak and there's going to be a lot of shear ahead for this system. Now, comparing all the past storms at this date between September 6th and September 8th, the only one we could find is Danny back in 1991, and it pretty much dissipated right east of Guadalupe. That could very well happen with this system as well. All right, here's the shear going out 48 hours from now. This is going into Friday. And you look at this deep low pressure upper level low here causing shear out in front of or near where Tropical Storm Maria is going to be. And we're talking 30 knots of shear right where the system is going to be. So it's going to be a weak system, sheared, not very favorable environment, and to tend to keep the system maybe a little bit further south. So this is something we're going to have to watch closely. If this shear does pan out in 48 hours from now, I think we're going to have see a shift in the forecast track a little bit to the west. All right, now here is the latest model map on NATE, and NATE is in the southern Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche. The official forecast is white. You can see the GFS and the NOGAPS model want to take it into Mexico. The BAM medium model wants to take it down into Mexico. And you can see the Canadian here and the LBAR want to take this system up into the Florida Panhandle. But that's looking unlikely, and I'm going to tell you the reason why looking at the water vapor loop. But the models are pretty tightly clustered here, taking this towards Mexico. There's a couple of outliers. Now here's the European model going out to September 12th. This is Monday. And the system, it takes a while to get in. Now, it's not that far away from Mexico, but it's going to take all these days. We're talking 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5 days from now before this starts making its way on shore. And again, just north of Tampico, Mexico, on the coast. There it is up close. It is not going into Texas. This is the best performing global model out there. The European model, it does not take it into Texas. It takes it into Mexico. So we'll see if that holds true for the next several days. Took all the storms in history between September 6th and the 8th in this particular spot in the southern Gulf of Mexico, and only the 1931 storm comes up, and that moved into Veracruz, Mexico, as a tropical storm. So again, there's something to be said about history and the times of the year when systems are in certain places. The most likely trajectory based on history is Mexico, and the same thing with Maria. Well, actually, I'm going to show you Maria's. I don't know if I showed you that. Yeah, I did. There was one system that weakens just east of the northern Leeward Islands, and that could also happen with Maria. Okay, let's take a look at the water. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to mention on NATE. Here is TropicAtlantic.com. The best performer on NATE, but of course we're only going out with 24 hours worth of data here, is the HWRF. It's only off by about 17.8 miles at 24 hours. That takes the system north. Kind of does a loop like this, has it north, and then has it heading back to the southwest. That's the HWRF, the best performer so far on Tropical Storm Nate. Now the models will get into better data and better able to forecast the future of this in about 24 to 36 hours once more data goes into the models on Nate. All right, let's take a look at the water vapor loop of our system. And here we are. And this is the entire Atlantic Basin, showing about 2/3 of the United States. And we have a big ridge that's dipping down. Let me show you. Let me stop this and tell you what's happening here. If you follow the movement of these clouds, we have this ridge that's pumping in here behind this trough. Here's your trough with the low pressure up here. And there's this big high pressure building in. And that's what's going to eventually turn Nate. It might drift north for a few days, and then it's going to eventually be bent back to the west by this high up here. You can definitely see the banding in the clouds, and there's a definite strong ridge up there that's going to push Nate into Mexico. This is subject to change now, but from what I'm seeing on the water vapor loop, that looks like the most likely scenario with the high pressure. Now this trough is going to linger over here with the remnants of Lee and, the trough. It's just an East Coast trough that's been there almost the entire hurricane season. And it's really stopped systems from coming across the Atlantic and plowing into the southeast because that trough is there and it's lower pressures. And hurricanes like to follow the lowest pressures that they can find. And what's going to happen here with Maria is it's forecast to come up like this. And at this time, this trough out here, the pressures are going to remain weak out here. Of course, Katia will be out of the picture. And Maria will be coming in like this, and it'll just find that weakness out here. There's going to be enough low pressure to just turn this to the north, and it's a little bit questioned as to if anybody will be affected up in the northeast, and we got to watch that over the next several days to see how the models respond to this. And again, remember the model I showed you before, the BAM shallow. Weak system further south could change everything, so we need to keep an eye on Maria closely. So that's about it. Again, Maria is also going to have this low pressure out here that's going to be shearing the system. So we're going to watch for Maria be a weak system and maybe head a little bit further south down the road. We'll have to watch for that. Anyway, that's it for now. Our focus at Hurricane City is on Maria because that looks like it could threaten the eastern seaboard. We'll change it to Nate. If Nate looks like it's going to be a huge threat here, we will switch cities to somewhere in Mexico for Nate. Anyway, that's about it. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.